8:44.
Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
This is over at the newly revamped publicaddress.net, the Hard News blog, and also the Media 7 show, TVNZ7. Russell Brown's with us. Morning, Russell.
Good morning.
Julian Assange, the head of WikiLeaks, has handed himself in. He's in custody. He's been refused bail, of course, with these allegations that have been thrown at him from his home country, or not, I should say his home country, because his home country is Australia, but from Sweden. And, of course, the arrest warrant put out by Interpol as well.
Yeah. This has finally landed, this whole thing. It's actually been brewing for quite some time. Ironically, you said his home country. Up until last month, he was still applying for Swedish citizenship.
Right.
He figured he would be safe there.
Everything but.
Yeah, but that was rejected on the basis of these charges, it seems.
Yeah.
We still really don't know what the merit of these charges is. And I think part of the problem there is that I don't think the rest of the world really understands Swedish law.
Well, I think, again, it's the terminology that the media are throwing around. Everyone's using the word rape. Now, it's a little bit unclear, though, isn't it,
yes,
under this law?
There have been various accounts. What happened was that Assange, last time he was in Sweden, had been doing seminars and was living there and staying there. And his host, Anna Ardan, was also his spokesperson in Sweden. He was shagging her, which there's clearly no law against. But she came into contact with another woman, a photographer, who it appeared that he'd been having sex with at the same time, who seems to have been the one who's made the accusation, and it seems to involve either a broken condom or a condom that he broke deliberately, or his refusal to wear one. And there are laws relating to these that define it as a sexual assault in Sweden. So it's not like it's completely made up. The initial prosecutor that looked at it interviewed Assange and said, well, there's clearly no rape here. And sent him on his way immediately, basically the next day.
Yeah.
But the two women and the lawyer, who happens to be a Social Democrat MP, appealed that. A second, more senior prosecutor took the case up and has said to the press that new information has led to the charges being brought again. Now, there are naturally all kinds of conspiracy theories about why this might have happened. And I think the onus is absolutely now on the Swedish government to keep this clear from any extradition bid by the Americans, who I think have already wildly overstepped the boundaries of their own law, because they can't say what they're charging him with. But I don't quite buy the theory that they need to get him to Sweden so he can be extradited, because if anything, Britain ought to be a more friendly power to the US than Sweden.
Yeah.
I mean, Sweden was the place where he thought he would be safe. So it is a mess of a situation, but I'm slightly appalled by how many people on the left have been prepared to join in this vilification of the two women involved, who, to the extent of attempting to prove that they're CIA plants or whatever. I don't think they are. If anything, it is literally a matter of political correctness gone mad.
Yeah.
It may be that, or it may be worse. Who knows?
But surely these the woman involved realise that what they are involved with is a lot bigger on a worldwide scale than the alleged offence.
Yes. But that doesn't mean you can trivialise or dismiss, a sexual assault. And this actually, this was in motion a good month or 6 weeks before the diplomatic cables release. So it's not directly tied to that. But it's hard to say. Should the women drop their complaint because he's basically a good guy and a revolutionary? I'm not sure. But maybe the complaint is baseless. Who knows?
Now,
But I think he should have gone back much, much sooner than he did. And he did have friends urging him to do that. Now it's a situation where, to everyone's shock, he has been remanded in custody.
Now, the fail-safe, on his death, he says that all the remaining information would automatically be released. It would be all decrypted and all that kind of thing. When does that fail-safe come in? Does it come in if he's like fully arrested, or if he's taken to the States, or when? What were the criteria?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he has said things to the effect that if he is imprisoned or killed, then the so-called insurance file will be unlocked. And this, it's a fascinating scenario.
Yeah.
This is a file containing the most damaging information, apparently. Some of it to do, apparently, with Guantanamo Bay. Supposedly this is the stuff that could bring down a government, although in America I wouldn't bet on it, frankly. But yeah, this is an encrypted document that has been distributed via file sharing networks and various other means, and thousands of people have this document now. And at some point, if he says so, the key will go out and the document will be unlocked.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely, very fascinating, very modern scenario.
It is, isn't it?
People are saying all sorts of things about cyber war. I think people are getting a little bit boy's-own about that.
Yeah.
We've also seen, of course, overnight the distributed denial of service attack on the bank that closed Assange's account. And I just really would not like to see a world in which reciprocal attacks like that became the way people exercise their political ideas.
Yeah.
Because although people think that the US government must surely have been behind the DDoS attacks on WikiLeaks when it released the cables, it's not necessarily the case. A guy who calls himself the Jester and proclaims himself to be an anti-jihadi hacker has already actually claimed responsibility, and it kind of makes sense, even though the natural thing to expect is dark government forces. Governments don't generally control botnets of infected PCs, which is how these attacks are actually mounted. The people who do it certainly may be talking to governments, like the Russian hackers who basically brought Estonia to its knees in 2007. They attacked its entire electronic infrastructure. But they were individuals, and quite sociopathic individuals. That's part of the problem. I've just been having an argument with Twitter, with someone on Twitter, with someone saying, "Oh, there's no way that the hacker community wouldn't be sympathetic to WikiLeaks." Private Bradley Manning, who leaked the cables, was turned in by a hacker called Adrian Lamo. It does happen, and not all hackers are nice people who share our politics, frankly.
Yeah. Well, just a note to all this as well. This very same day that Julian Assange has been arrested, the United States has announced that it will host the World Press Freedom Day event next year.
Oh, God, the irony. Some of the stuff that has been said by senior politicians in the US has been absolutely appalling. And sleazebags like Joe Lieberman, who quite clearly put pressure on Amazon to stop hosting the WikiLeaks cable files. And, it's just, I don't know. They've really got a nerve, frankly. I have mixed feelings about WikiLeaks and about Assange, but the people who've been attacking him, and even there have been Republican congressmen calling for him to be killed. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. But is there a worry for the everyday man who is on Twitter or Facebook talking about WikiLeaks and supporting Assange and that kind of thing, that that their files will be flagged on entry to the States?
I would be surprised if that were the case, just because there's so many. But students at I can't remember what the university is in the US have been. If you fancy going into the diplomatic service or being a public servant, don't link to the Cablegate documents. Which is sort of sad, but it's probably quite wise advice, because I think when there's something like that, there is a chance of getting caught up in it and it really affecting your future. I just think there are so many million people who are commenting on it and linking to things out here in the wider internet. There's no way the Americans
And
can
yet,
really do anything about it.
yet not trending on Twitter.
No, well, that's another controversial one. I was reading up on that, and it's there's a degree of mystery about how Twitter trends get made.
Yeah.
It's not automatic, and it is actually a manual process. But on the other hand, Cablegate was trending
For a couple of days.
in the week that it happened.
Yeah.
And it may be, it's certainly possible that Twitter are thinking we don't need to buy the trouble here of putting WikiLeaks in our trending topics. Yeah.
Which is a terrible case of censorship.
Yeah, it is. It's a terrible case of censorship. Although, I mean, it's not like they're censoring the content. They're just not putting it in there, what is effectively a promotional list. But, yeah, I don't know. It's the whole thing is fascinating and unnerving in so many ways. You know, I'm unnerved by the actions of governments. I'm unnerved by, to some extent, the cult of personality that has developed around Assange.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it, basically.
It's unfolding before our very eyes right on the net, and there's plenty of places to follow it. Of course, more updates also from you at hardnews@publicaddress.net. Thanks, Russell.
Indeed. Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.
Time now here on Kiwi is